231, Public Law 1975, entitled Open Public Meeting Act. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as specified in the Act. Proper notice of this public meeting was provided in the notice. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the Board of Education office, mailed to the Nutley Sun, the Star Ledger, the North Jersey Herald News, and the Nutley Journal, mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk, advertised in the Nutley Sun on January 16th, advertised in the Nutley Sun, was posted on the district website. Do I have a flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Puzo, please.
Mr. Marticello?
Here.
Mrs. Sanchez Martin? Here. Mr. Ferraro?
Here.
Mr. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Riley? Ms. Russo? Here. Mr. Scalera?
Here.
Mr. Spizzato?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Here. Correspondence?
There isn't a
Mr. Lesbick, will you take over the presentation?
Thank you. As you notice, we have some students with us today. And again, thanks to Ms. Paul. She's been doing some wonderful things in her class in support of Mr. Wienmeister and Mr. Levine, and kind of pushing some of the things we've been talking about at the high school. So she thought it would be nice to have the kids come here and teach the board something, using some of the technology.
There's no enough time in the night.
They're going to give it a shot anyway, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Paul.
Thank you all for coming, and I'm going to just turn the program right over to Marissa and Victoria. Throughout the course of the year, we kind of came up with the name Podlets that you can see on their shirts. We took the name Nearpod, the program that we've been using in class, and we just added the let's to it because they're learning still. And on the back, Marissa, if you could just turn around, on the back of their shirts, we have teacher and student, and the arrow's pointing to both. Because with this program, you never really know who the teacher is and you never know who the student is because we're both learning together as we use this program. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. The board members are going to be the students today, and the students are going to be the teachers, showing them how to use the program. So girls, it's all up to you. Can I show the lights off? Is it okay?
So everybody's logging in, right?
So just for the sake of time, we went ahead and logged all the board members in, but this is what the beginning of class would look like. And girls, you can go ahead from there.
So you can see who's logged in or not. Ms. Paul can see who's not logged in, and so she can tell which student needs to get logged in. And so is everyone signed in?
Yeah.
All right. So take your little survey. And as you see, you can advance the slides. So Ms. Paul knows that everyone's on the right side. And there's Okay, so as you can see, the orange represents how many of you said no, and the yellow represents no answer, so I guess a few of you did not answer. And the blue represents yes, so you can see a few of you know how to use a Punnett square. And Ms. Paul can always see who did not answer the question. And she gets a report at the end of the day on all the quizzes and drawings that we take. She'll get a report of all this information at the end of each session. So let's go right ahead into it. So circle 3 items you're familiar with. So as you submit your images, they'll come up on the screen. And Ms. Paul always does an intro activity to start off the lesson. As you all submit, they'll come up on the screen. So Ms. Paul knows who's contributing.
Mr. Pizarro, we're waiting for you. Is there interaction between you and the teacher while this is going on? Or
Well, she'll have the projection screen up so she can see who's participating and who's not, so we all know whether our answer was submitted or not.
and if you need help?
We can always ask her. She's right.
You don't bother, right? You probably don't need her help.
Okay, so let's continue. So the objectives of today's lesson is to use a Punnett square to show and predict all possible gene combinations in a cross of parent 1 and parent 2. We don't call them mom and dad, we just call them parent 1 and parent 2. And students will be able to predict the phenotypic, which is physical traits. And the way I remember that is phenotypic starts with a P, and so it is physical. So phenotypic, physical traits. And genotypic, which are genes, ratios for monohybrid crosses based on the Punnett square. And monohybrid crosses are a cross between one trait. So an example would be eye color, hair color, whether you're tall or short.
So step 1 is to designate letters which will represent the genes of the traits. The capital letters represent dominant traits, which will always be expressed, and in this case, capital T will represent the tall trait. And lowercase letters represent recessive traits, which will only be expressed if 2 of them are present. In this case, lowercase t will be the short trait. And a recessive trait will only be shown if a dominant trait isn't present.
So step number 2, let's look at the parents and see what genes they contributed. To keep it simple, parent 1 will be tall. Therefore, the genes contributed are represented by the letters capital T, and parent 2 will be short. Therefore, the genes contributed are represented by the letters lowercase t, since there is no dominant gene present. So let's take our quiz. Usually at this point, Ms. Paul turns the projector off so we can't see what other classmates' answers are, so we can all work independently to get our own answers. So as the answers come up, you can see which ones are right and wrong, because when you're right, it'll come up in green, and when you're wrong, it'll come up in red. So usually Paul will turn off the projector so we can't see each other's answers. so we could all get our own. And so as you can see, it'll come up green when it's right and red when it's wrong. So most of you got it correct. There's just a few that are no answer. But here Ms. Paul can see which individual student understands the lesson by how many they get right, obviously. And each question, if everyone gets a question wrong, there may be a topic she'll want to go over or explain more to the class if they didn't understand. And oh, and also, like I said, Ms. Paul gets a report at the end of each session of the answers each student put in, so if she wants, she can count it as a grade or an assignment.
So step 3, we're going to draw a Punnett square and perform the cross. So to draw a Punnett square, it contains 4 small squares in the shape of a window. And we rate the genes of parent 1 across the top 2 boxes, and we rate the genes of parent 2 along the left side of the boxes.
So, this is how you do a Punnett square across. So, as you can see, the parent 1's trait are at the top, which was capital T, and parent 2 is on the side, which is lowercase t, lowercase t. So what you're going to do, if you've ever done a graph in math, you just want to like bring the letters down and they meet. So since capital T is dominant, it'll be shown, so it's put first before the lowercase t. So all the offspring will result in a tall tree because the capital T is dominant and it's always expressed in the cross. So now it's your turn to try it out. If you need help, yes, student.
Thanks, Brian.
Yes, so you keep one letter.
Thanks, Brian.
So here, when they come up, Ms. Paul can see who wrote what. So Ms. Paul can see who did what. So obviously the people who didn't do it, they were assigned. Ms. Paul can call them out on. Like this one.
That was intentional though, just so we can see what happens in case in real world scenario.
So I'm gonna share this one with you all. So this image should have come up on all your screens. So do you want to explain how you got this answer? Who is it?
Dr. Belong.
So do you want to explain?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I put the tall, parent 1 at the top was tall, so there were 2 capital T's. And this parent 2 was short, so it's lowercase t, lowercase t. And then putting them on the graph, I brought the capital T down and the lowercase t across so that all of the offspring would have the tall trait.
Great. Okay, now I'm going to unshare. And we'll continue. Okay, so now let's do something fun. So right now I'm sharing a paddle with you. So we're going to cross Mr. Levine, who has red hair. So his genotype will be lowercase r. And we're going to cross with Marge Simpson, who has blue hair, which is going to be dominant. So her genotype will be capital R, lowercase r. So we're gonna
This is
go
just an
back.
example.
So now we're actually going to cross it. So just cross Mr. Levine's genotype and Marge's genotype. Just remember that blue is dominant and will be represented by a capital R, and red hair is recessive and will be represented by a lowercase r.
No, it doesn't matter if you sign any letter or any trade. Just make red hair.
So during this time, Ms. Paul usually walks around the room and asks if you have any questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So lowercase Okay, so I shared this one with you, and this one is color-coded, which always helps. So do you want to explain your answer?
Sorry?
Do you want to explain your answer?
My answer?
Yeah.
I put the parent one across the top, correct, and blue was dominant and red was recessive, so I had capital R in blue, in case people are confused. And then complete lowercase r for recessive, I had parent 2, which was recessive, and I crossed it.
Did you use red to signify red hair?
I did. And the blue signified blue partly so I don't get confused.
Okay.
So do you know what the phenotypes would be, which is physical appearance?
Which quadrant do I need to start with? There were 2 that have the dominant gene, so they would be blue. Blue hair. And the other 2 are recessive, so the red hair would come through.
Great.
When they get older,
Okay.
it's blue.
So we're going to move on. So now we're going to circle the 3 terms that you learned tonight. And Ms. Paul always likes to do what we started off with to see what we learned. So you can see what we learned from the beginning till the end. I'm glad to see that most of you learned in your class. And we're going to continue.
So we're not going to go ahead and show you the entire video tonight, but Mr. Kelly and his TV production studio, specifically Kevin Davis, who's in the audience, they were nice enough to come into our class and film the students actually using Nearpod on a daily basis. And we interviewed some of the students and asked them why they liked this way of learning using the technology rather than just me standing up in front of the class and lecturing to them. So we're just going to show you a very brief 1-minute clip of the video. It is on the Nutley High School website after tonight, so all of you are free to watch it. It's only about 5 minutes, and we're actually presenting it at Montclair State at a technology conference on Friday. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. And it's going to be on your screens as well.
In the beginning of the year, the science department was given an iPad cart with 25 iPads in it that the entire department was able to use and share. I felt I needed a way to use the iPads to enable the students to interact not only with the program, but with each other. Nearpod itself has changed the way that I teach, and I don't think I'll ever go back to my old ways of teaching again. Nearpod is an everyday occurrence in my classroom. The students are interacting with each other, they work together in groups, they collaborate with each other daily, and they are assessed using Nearpod throughout the lesson. I usually start class with a poll or some kind of thought-provoking question. Then we go into PowerPoint slides, which are so easy, I just upload them from files I've already had. And I like to put the interactive slides in there where the students are drawing, because I can give them instantaneous feedback on whether they are processing the information I'm giving them. The quizzes are probably my favorite feature. It is the best form.
So if you want to watch, I'm not going to play the whole video. Like I said, it's about 5 minutes long and due to lack of time. But please feel free to go on and watch the video and give us your feedback on it and let you know what you think of it. And sorry.
Okay, so now take your survey.
And this is just feedback for myself. So we're going to turn the projector off while the board members go ahead and take their survey. Yeah, go ahead.
So Ms. Paul can always assign homework on Nearpod. So after you can do, if she wanted to assign something for homework, she can always do it like this.
So what the board members are doing while they're taking their survey, another very useful piece of technology that we're using in our classroom to go almost completely paperless, at least in biology, is Google Docs. And we use Google Docs for education, and all of their lab reports, I give them surveys about what we are doing in class, are all done electronically now. And it really saves on paper, but it allows the students to collaborate and work together on all of their reports. So their data that they're doing right now will get submitted to me through a presentation document, and then I will be able to go over it and really see what people thought of the presentation tonight. So, Mr. Levine, is there anything else you want to add before we get and let them?
Just wanted to say thank you to all the students and for everybody for participating. This is just a snapshot of some of the things that go on in the district. Ms. Osage works with a number of the elementary school students and teachers using technology, and you can see a lot of their work on teacher pages on the website. This is just, we have more of this to come with Google Docs, Nearpod, iPads, etc. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Certainly on behalf of the board, but I think all the board members can speak for themselves. It was fantastic. Thank you for your help. We're very, very proud of the job you're doing. This is a great presentation for us. Thank you very much. Great job.
I just saw that, I said, listen, you can't have that here.
Oh, it's there, it's
Again, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. As Ms. Yates and I were discussing, we gave her the iPad that was not working too well, so that when we put in a request for new iPads, moving forward, Mr. Ledger.
Thanks, Mr. Kaczynski. We have an update as part of our strategic plan and the curriculum action team specifically from Mr. Materials on the world language pilot. Mr. Materials.
It's on yellow there.
Now's the time if you'd like to come in and take a seat. Mr. Material, maybe we can get started, at least do a little short talk. We have a long night.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening. This evening, hopefully Mr. Meister can. This evening I will be presenting the World Language Pilot's final results. The first slide would have been the World Language Department's mission. Bear with me 1 second. One folder away. I apologize and thank you for your patience. So once again, this evening I will be presenting the final results from the World Language Pilot. Before I begin, I just want to highlight the World Language Department's mission. This mission was revisited throughout the curriculum writing process last year, and it was once again visited throughout the piloting process. This mission operates under the blanket of the mission of the district's mission as well, and you'll see some salient words that are shared between both missions. The words I'd like to highlight are challenging, inviting context, profound understanding, as well as continuous learning. The resources that we will be proposing for adoption today support those words that I shared with you. The objectives of this process were to ensure that all stakeholders were involved, that all the meetings and activities that we held fell within the parameters of the school day. We also wanted to make sure that there was a procedure and process in place for programs and resources that were chosen. And of course, the most important part, we wanted to make sure that everything that we chose was aligned to Common Core standards, World Languages, New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards, the curriculum which was approved by the Board of Education. We also wanted to make sure that the resources provided rigor for our students, for those students that demonstrate high levels of proficiency, as well as rigor for those students that demonstrate lower levels of proficiency. We wanted to make sure that our parents would also be able to access resources online, that our teachers would have resources in order to improve their pedagogy, and for our students to be able to be engaged inside and outside of the classroom. This process began last year. Upon completing the World Language curriculum last year, we started asking certain vendors to give us an opportunity to view materials just to see what was out there. That process carried into this year. We previewed materials. We actually invited vendors in to present their materials. We evaluated those materials, and teachers used materials in the classroom, which brings us to this evening when we present the final results. The three programs, the three vendors that we piloted in the three languages that we currently teach in the Nutley Public Schools were McGraw-Hill, Pearson, and Vista. The initial guiding questions that we used during the presentations in order to choose the programs that we would pilot were the following. We wanted to make sure that the content that was provided was actually adequate and, in fact, rigorous for our students and matched our curriculum. The most important part was we wanted to make sure that the programs we chose gave our teachers and our students the ability to record their voice. Different from other languages, we want to make sure that our students have the ability to record at home. 40 minutes in the classroom speaking the target language is nearly not enough. So we want to invite our students to record at home, listen to it, and also engage in self-assessment. We want to make sure that our students, that our teachers would have the ability to also be creative and create their own prompts, whether they're written or spoken. We wanted to make sure that the materials were updated. We wanted to make sure that the materials were also authentic, that they would engage students. The materials that we decided to pilot, we decided to pilot 2 programs per language, were Vista, for Italian, Vista's Sentieri e Immagina program, and Pearson's Percorsi in Giardino Italiano program. For Spanish, once again, Vista and Pearson, we piloted the Descubre program along with the AP Ancillaries and Temas, which is the major driving force behind their AP program. Pearson's Realidades and their selected AP titles. And for Latin, we had McGraw-Hill, Latin for Americans, and Pearson's Ecce Romani, along with the selected AP titles that go along with that program. Throughout the piloting process, we asked more specific questions which guided the creation of the rubrics that we used in order to get the final results that we'll be sharing with you tonight. With regard to alignment, we want to make sure that not only were the resources aligned to the Common Core, as well along with the New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards, but we also want to make sure that the resources were aligned to the 6 AP themes that are tested in AP Spanish and AP Italian, and we also wanted to make sure that they were aligned to the analysis themes of the Latin AP exam. We also wanted to make sure that from level to level, students were able to activate prior knowledge. That which they learned in Latin 1 or Italian 1 should be able to set them up for success when they take the second level course. We also wanted to make sure that there were tiered activities. Every student should be provided with a rigorous environment, irrelevant of their level of proficiency. Online, this was where we spent the most time having conversations and analyzing. We wanted to make sure that if we were to throw the textbook out, the students would still be able to access the textbook, be able to complete activities. We were looking for machine-created components. We want a kid or student, I'm sorry for using the word kid, student, to be able to complete an activity and receive instantaneous feedback. The student should know whether they're right or wrong right away. And we want to also make sure that there was a recording activity where the students could also receive feedback from the teacher. And finally, we wanted to make sure that there was a full professional development package with our purchase, as well as parent resources available. Before we go into the final results, this was the process we followed. We started our process on December 9th, where we had the vendor presentations. Prior to that, as I just shared, we had materials come in. After the vendor presentations, the teachers and every committee member completed an initial rubric, which followed those guiding questions that I just shared. And we then made a final decision as to which programs we could invite back for a pilot. That decision was made on the 16th. On the 16th, teachers began to formally use the pilot materials. At that point, we also had online component introduced to our students, so the students were also exposed to the online component in a limited format, of course, in the classroom and also at home. Subsequent training was provided on the 24th and 28th of March. This is where the teachers were given a more in-depth explanation as to how to use the online component successfully in the classroom. We continued to implement the program, gave the teachers another 2 months with the materials before they had to complete their final rubric on May 7th. Those results were shared on May 30th with the full committee. The final results are based on the final rubric, which measured 4 areas: content, instruction, assessment, and materials. The highest score that a resource could have received was a 4. So you're going to see 2 different types of numbers. You're going to see a 4 and then a number that can go all the way up to a 16. That's how we decided to go. That's how we decided to differentiate between the second and first choice. For Italian, Vista's program received perfect scores in content, instruction, materials, and assessment, and their total average score was a 16. When compared to Pearson, of course, and the blue, of course, is a better color as opposed to the other color. And so any resource that's blue is the resource that we'll be proposing for adoption. Same thing with Latin, except this one didn't come through. We'll be purchasing both. No, I'm joking. With regard to Pearson, that's the company that we will be proposing for adoption with Pearson, Ecce Romani. The biggest thing that separated McGraw-Hill from Pearson is McGraw-Hill did not offer programs that directly connected the lower levels to the AP programs. So that was something that teachers were really concerned with. And finally, Vista for Spanish as well. It was a lot closer between Vista and Pearson for Spanish, but once again, Vista beat Pearson in every area, and their average score was slightly over 13 when compared to just under 12 for Pearson's Spanish. So proposal for adoption. For Italian, we're going to be proposing Vista with Sentire e Immagina. For Spanish, once again, Vista, Descubre and AP Spanish. And then for Latin, Pearson's Ecce Romani and selected AP titles. Why we chose these programs? They are aligned to both Common Core and New Jersey Core Curriculum content standards for world languages. They give the teacher and the students the ability to articulate from level to level. A 7th grader knows what the AP course will look like after a couple days in class. Authenticity. Students will be engaged immediately with the storylines, the anecdotal approaches to grammar. Practical breakdown. Students are exposed to language prior to the actual grammar and grammatical structures. So the students can actually have a conversation with the language, then they will learn what the grammar is driving that actual communicative activity. With regard to rigor and differentiation, I've stated it several times throughout this presentation, every student, irrelevant of proficiency, will be challenged. Robustness. Every program offers a plethora of activities. Teachers will have options in order to select activities that will challenge those students. And finally, versatility. Each of the programs being proposed can be used in 7th grade all the way to the highest levels of AP. Who else is using these programs? With the academic committee, I shared a full list of districts that use the programs we are proposing. As you can see, most of these districts are high performing, especially when it comes to world languages. West Windsor-Plainsboro is actually a K-12 model district. It's the only K-12 world language model district in the state. Livingston High School, Ramapo, Northern Valley Regional, West Morris, Mendham. And for Lang, once again, Berkeley Heights, Bernards, Glen Rock, Mountain Lakes, Northern Highlands, Summit Public Schools. Once we make our purchase, this is what we'll do next. We will begin the real work, which is the training. Vista and Pearson as well will be offering full trainings. Vista will actually train us for the 6 years that we own the online subscription. There'll be an initial training which will be a full day, a follow-up training will be a full day, and this is for every language, it's not total. So there'll actually be 3 full trainings, 3 full initial trainings. There will also be continuing training throughout the first year of implementation and ongoing webinars throughout the 6 years that we will own their subscription. On behalf of the pilot committee, I want to thank you for your attention this evening and your patience as well for the technical difficulties. We believe that we are proposing for adoption the best resources for our students and program. Thank you very much.
Just one question, Mr. McCary. Can you just briefly give us an idea of who served on the committee? Not their names, but
absolutely.
the makeup of the committee.
We had 3 principals. We had a principal from the elementary level, a principal from the middle school level. We only have 1 principal. And we also had our favorite high school principal. Every teacher in the department, in the world language department, was on the committee. We did not choose teachers. Every world language teacher was involved. We had a parent representative from the high school and a parent representative from the middle school. Dr. Villani attended every committee meeting as well. And I believe that's it.
Okay,
And of course, I was there.
Any
Oh, we also had board members.
I was gonna say.
Ms. Danchuk Martin
Yes.
was there as well.
And Dr. Reed. And Dr. Reed.
And Dr. Reed, yes.
Fine. Thank you very much. Any questions, any comments? You guys, if you want to come in and take a seat, you're welcome to do that. Board members, you can come back. We're going to take a little, we're going to deviate from our program. We have with us tonight Commissioner Scarpelli, who is later on the agenda, but I know you have a busy life.
Really?
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight I have a presentation of $3,150 for the Special Education Department. This is for the 21 teachers. It's $150 per teacher to supplement what they already received from the board for spending with their extras in the classroom. So I'll bring them up to $250 a piece.
Mr. Scarpelli, we can't thank you enough. Seriously, I know you've done this more often than not, and it's appreciated by the board, certainly appreciated by the children in the district.
This will bring us over $30,000.
Fantastic.
That we've donated to the special education, mostly the autistic program. We had our fundraiser, our bowling fundraiser in April. When we get back all our wish lists, and we'll probably be over $40,000 somewhere in September in donating equipment and scholarships to the special education department.
Thank you very much.
One more thing, Mr. President, we're again without a head of that department, and I urge the board and the administration, let's find somebody who wants to stay here a little bit longer.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We are trying very hard. We will. Thank you very much. All right, sorry, guys. Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. I cannot believe another year has gone by. I feel like we're just up here talking about year 2 goals, and now year 2 is over. As required, presentation on our strategic plan and our evaluation work, better known as common vision and common language. So when we talk common vision, we're talking our strategic plan. Okay, there you go. A little over 2 years ago, we got together as a board and a community with 65 members to come up with a mission and a vision statement to kind of define how the district was going to evolve over these next 5 years. And coming out with a strong mission, we really came up with a theme which was student achievement, how we help student achievement with everything that word achievement actually means. That our outcome was creative, competent, passionate, self-directed students. We really focused our discussions on the students themselves. And from that, we developed a plan, 6 components of the plan with 6 different action teams. And we wanted everyone who is excited about the evolution of the district to be involved. We have leadership, administrative leadership of those action teams. Each of those action teams set up has a central office liaison and a board liaison, And the idea is that if we move those 6 pieces forward, 5 years from the date of our setting that mission, the district will look dramatically different. So, at the end of year 2, reaching for our mission, Nutley Public Schools is to challenge, inspire, and empower students to become creative, confident, passionate, self-directed citizens who actively and purposefully contribute in our global society. Like so many other districts, it has all those important keywords. If you're looking for the strategic plan, it's located on the website at this link, which will, of course, be updated. The issue, again, is that as a public entity, so often our worth and our success is judged against what our actual mission and vision are. And going back 2 years, we didn't even have one. Now we have a strategic plan, and so the idea was to not become, as you see the bold there, not become like most districts. Recent research has shown that school districts all have strategic plans, and every 5 years they rewrite their strategic plans without having achieved the goals set in that initial plan. We did not want to be that district. So our job was to make sure that what we wrote on paper and published on the internet actually became reality. In order to make that happen, we developed, as I said, 6 action teams. We built a structure around those action teams, gave each of those action teams separate but meaningful goals, knowing that as we move through the 5 years, the different pieces of the 6 would begin to fall together into one outcome. The idea being within 5 years, if not before the 5-year mark, we would start to see a dramatic change in the district, benefiting first and foremost those students that we talked about before. Our job this year was to ensure that we had clear, reasonable year 2 goals. Again, under that 5-year umbrella, we built individual steps to make sure that we weren't overreaching, biting too much of the apple at the same time, and then communicating that work to all of our stakeholders, involving the necessary stakeholders throughout the district, the township, and beyond, and then of course, as always required, making what is today, that final presentation in May or June on how we did in year 2 and how we're moving to year 3. So our 6 action teams were defined as character, communication, community, competency, configuration, and curriculum. And each of them is in a different spot as we move through those 5 years, but again, the goal being that they eventually fall together. In order to make the presentation brief but clear, I want to remind everyone that we had a separate plan for each of the 5 years that we knew if we stuck to would allow us to realize our strategic vision and dramatically change the district for the better. Year 1 was researching and creating draft frameworks. Year 2 was continuing to finalize that draft and research for implementation. Moving into year 3, where we're going to target pilot implementation of different pieces. And as you're going to see as I present on each of the 6, we're in different places. Our character team. 5-year goal was really based around this idea that we don't teach character explicitly. We allow kids to develop as they should on their own, but there's no structure in place to expose students to dilemmas in a controlled and safe environment to allow them to grow as ethical, moral people with set values that they've determined on their own and fully believe in. The year 2 goal was that they were going to create a viable curriculum, including a definition framework with parameters for character education. This team is splintered into 3 different areas. And at the end of the day, at the end of year 2, they have a complete curriculum at this point, having tested different pieces out. As we move into target implementation for year 3, what they're trying to do at this point is highlight specific areas in the district where teachers or groups of teachers can take what has been built after the research and the writing and implement them to see exactly how things roll out, so that we're testing things much akin to Mr. Material's pilot in small doses that are controlled to see what works, what doesn't, and to learn lessons before we bring everybody into the fold. Our communications team. Again, for them, the idea was that we were told as part of our strategic work that we were not communicating effectively as a district, and that's multifaceted. It's parents to teachers, teachers to students, students to parents. It's the administration together. It's the teachers and the administration. It's going out into the community, involving parents, but also the larger community, the other stakeholders in town. One of the things that is so wonderful about this town is being close-knit. There are so many resources here and so many people wanting to help. So we want to make sure we were communicating. This year, we had a number of presentations on technology, on our strategic plan, on our facilities, and most recently on state assessment in Park. So that team getting together, talking to parents and community members about what they want to know about. The other piece is if you look at our website, which is dramatically different from a year and a half ago. It's even dramatically different from this past September. The communications team is constantly taking feedback as to what is working, what isn't working, and tweaking things to make sure we get the right information to the right people at the right time in the best possible way. As far as our community team, this was interesting. Community seemed to be a misnomer. This was not the team that drew the community in, that was communication. community action team actually was built around this idea that we need to get the learning for students beyond the classroom, out into the community. We've hired staff members related to this. We've brought in specific programs, and their goal again was to build a specific learning toolkit. What they did research-wise was go out and look at what other programs exist, what other districts are doing, and pull all of them together. As you're going to see, putting that toolkit together, their goal again for next year is to finalize that. It's pretty much there, and then to target different places we can roll this out, teachers that are excited about this work, to see how we can get the kids out beyond the community in a programmatic and a systematic way. Competency. Competency, the idea behind competency, again, is that there are skills that make successful people successful, and we want our students to be successful people. And that these skills are not content specific. They transcend any individual content. The idea is, again, we allow students to develop them on their own, but we don't explicitly teach them. We miss opportunities every day to teach kids how to grow in these areas: self-direction, communication, articulation, information literacy, collaboration, things that, especially as technology changes the workforce and the general world, our students are going to need. We have to teach that explicitly. In order to do that, we have to have a plan. This committee came up with a framework this year, multifaceted, to cover what they consider these 6 competencies that any successful person needs to grow within. And again, they've now partnered with our Health and Physical Education Department, who are coming out of program review, which I'll talk about in a second, and have coupled that work together so that it's seamless and that the kids, as an initial experience, start to discuss competencies as part of their health and physical education work. From that work, we want to use Health and PD almost at the Learning Lab to branch out into all the other areas of the district within the strategic plan's timeline. The configuration goals, again, another team that fractured for a good reason. At the elementary level, we're doing a number of things under the direction of Mrs. Grohl and a number of our elementary staff members, focused around consistency at the level, looking at how other districts have scheduled, what they're scheduling, how they staff based on those schedules, and then they're moving into next year combining that with both a program of studies and a code of conduct, neither of which exist at the elementary level. We had codes of conduct at the middle and high school, but again, program of study came in as part of our curriculum work. That will continue. We see the benefit 7-12. We want to see that benefit realized K-6. And then finally, our curriculum. The work that you saw from Mr. Materi today, that's evidence of the work the curriculum committee has done. That curriculum committee really built their 5-year plan in half a year, which was the idea of program review. There's a 5-year cycle. All of our content areas, 2 at a time, go through that 5-year cycle with each year playing a different role. As we went through our strategic plan, one of the things that we realized coming from parents, from students explicitly, but certainly from our teachers, was that we had fallen out of best practice in many areas. We had not kept up with current practice. We had not supported teachers with professional development. We had not renewed our resources. So the curriculum committee, in order to prevent that from happening moving forward, came up with this idea of program review, which if we stick to moving forward, not only will we have a process whereby all of our teachers, regardless of content area, are constantly involved and engaged with revising and reviewing how we're teaching, what we're teaching, how it's integrated with other areas that we're teaching, whether we have the right professional development and we're using the right resources for our students. But not only that, they'll also be making sure as we go forward, as the board has been responsible in our building of the budget, that as the different content areas roll out of the different years separately, we will have funding to support their needs. There's really no reason to ask our teachers to go above and beyond and research what they want to do next year. Have them go through a wonderful pilot process, as we just heard from Mr. Materia, and then turn around and say, well, we don't have the budget to support them. So again, this was hard work on all different parts, including certainly the Board of Education, who's pushed the work. Our year 3 goals, as I just described, are up there. I know they're small, but the presentation will be on the website. We're moving really into that middle year of the 5-year plan where we begin the implementation. Okay, so the curriculum committee's been implementing for 2 years. Competency, moving forward. Our middle school, at the configuration level again, becoming a true middle school in September. Our high school has been researching multiple schedules to see how other districts are trying to meet the needs of our students with a more diverse and robust schedule, trying to raise the rigor and get more kids into higher level college preparatory courses and beyond, advanced placement, international baccalaureate. They're prepared to move, and we've been working with the board because there will be staffing and resource issues as well. But the idea being that if we restructure the existing day, we can offer more to our students with fewer conflicts and encourage more of our students to take even more rigorous classes. All these goals are there. Before I leave, it's been 2 years of work. 1 year building the strategic plan, and 2 years of work, and 3 years have flown by. But if you look at the district, look at the iPads that are in the classrooms, you look at the ways the teachers are working with resources that they've been asking for, if you look at the way we model professional development, our English program has dramatically changed, our mathematics program has dramatically changed, our science program is dramatically changing. Our health and physical education, I'm incredibly excited about that coming into next year, is growing. It's all driven by the people who it benefits the most. On our strategic plan, I forgot to mention, but among the 65 people, there certainly were students as well, voicing their concerns about what's going on in class. Taking all that information, if you look at what's happened, there has been a huge level of energy and commitment from certainly the students, trying to benefit the administrators, the board, but you look at our teachers who've taken on so much, leveraging this change that other districts lived through, no exaggeration, in 10 to 15 years. We started to move this forward in 1 to 2 because we know we need to not only catch up but pass, because the district that we wrote in our strategic plan as our vision of who we want to be isn't just as good as everybody else's bet. And that's where we're moving, and hopefully you can see fruits of that labor. The board members, our teachers, our administrators, local community members and beyond have all kind of stepped up and helped us out with resources, with their time, with their energy, with their feedback, and we're only looking for better things as we move into year 3. Common language is a little bit different. The idea that we have to find a way that is common to talk about everything that we do. If we don't have a common language, we can't talk about what we do, we cannot effectively work together. So the idea being for this year, as always, I say this, and people have gotten tired of the 3, but we believe that our evaluation system, our common language, is about growth, learning, and accountability in that order. We know that we're accountable, we're professionals, we're paid to support students. But when it comes to the observation system, it is not specific to an accountability system. I know in other places that may be, but we put growth first. And the difference between growth and learning, we should be learning constantly. But growth is actual change in our practice. Going to professional development, reading a book, working with a colleague is wonderful for learning. But that also has to translate into a positive change in your professional practice that demonstrably impacts student growth. So again, we believe we can meet all those goals. Having that common language is research-based. 3 years ago, we got together with teachers and administrators and selected, as through a collaborative process, both a state-approved framework for our certificate staff and a state-approved framework for our administrators. It was collaborative. We have multiple people looking at them. At the teacher level, we started with 6, got down to 4, was eventually 3, from which we picked 1. At the administrative level, I believe we started with 4, but quickly got down to 2, and then collectively selected 1 as well. We've trained on those consistently, and in many instances got a head start on what we did not know was coming. But we've been talking framework language in a different process for 3 years, where many districts are living through their first. Without going through all of this again, up on the website it will go, but the idea is that we had a very specific process. If you look at our goals within common language, there are a number of things that multiple stakeholders in the district had to do for us to be successful. We came up with what we considered, what we call connected evaluation. Rather than these individual drive-bys, if you will, where people stop in, we tried to connect everything professionally, from our goals and professional development to the observation process itself, one to the next to create a true cycle of growth. Too often we've been criticized as educators, not specifically in this district, but as an industry, of writing goals in the spring so that we can not pay attention to them and come back next spring and write new goals. We threw that out. We wanted to make sure our goals were driving our work. That way we weren't wasting time. We were setting meaningful goals that would help us improve as practitioners, which thereby would then help the students grow. We had multiple things running through each of these years. The first is which, as you notice the different evaluations, we focused on different domains specifically to really learn how these different domains in our professional practice connect, how our planning impacts our instruction, how our environment impacts our instruction, and how our professional practice drives all of that. Because of that, one of the key components in our district, which is you won't find in most, is this idea of reflection. And when I say you won't find reflection, reflection is all over the place, but our reflection is systemic, is built into each step of the process, and culminates as part of the actual annual evaluation. We want our staff members to have the biggest say in their growth. Okay, and so we've been trying to support them, and again through this year, as we keep getting better year after year. I want to thank both the teachers and the administrators who took on 4 to 5 times as many observations and therefore conversations through this year than they ever have in the past. The timeline of this year, we had teachers and administrators together over the summer, learning together both the process and practicing with the framework, applying it, having conversations, and helping us set a course for the year. In September, everyone's initial evaluation was to be completed in the first month. Predefined with a pre-conference, it was announced following the state protocols, so that we get everyone off to a start. We weren't waiting. Teachers were not standing around saying, well, when can I have some feedback on my goals? What am I doing? The idea was to get into every classroom as quickly as possible and start this process. From September to June, we have bi-weekly administrative meetings. I'd love to get even more teachers involved, but as administrators, we sit once every 2 weeks to go over this, and we have all year long. We take questions, we get feedback, conversations from teachers, information from our associations about how the process is going and how we can grow and get better. Everyone is learning. Our administrators are learning, our teachers are learning, we're all learning together. We need to be working side by side and helping one another. In October, based on the state requirements, we set our student growth objectives. We did this collaboratively for the first year, with the idea being if we practice this together, number one, safety of numbers, but number two, if we learn the process consistently, then the teachers could on their own break up and do it for themselves based on what they want to measure in the subsequent weeks. From October to April, we continued with the unannounced observations and our multiple work, as you saw, through the strategic plan and the rest, different content, different curriculum, different instruction strategies. In February, we had 2 large professional development sessions, one of which culminated with a recalibration of the student growth objectives as necessary. Again, our job, we talked about growth first, was learning the process, not about having a first year's worth of numbers negatively impact what is actually going on with faculty, or therefore what's going on in the classroom. April to May, which we just came through, we have our reflections coming in from our teachers, non-tenured and tenured, taking all that data and information together. We sit down, we do a full staff review of every single certificate staff member in the district, and we do it collaboratively by level. We have every administrator together at one table, K-6, and then 7-12. Every administrator who has interacted with those staff members, whether it's individually or formally through an evaluation process, or it's informally through the general work that they do, whether it's a principal who sees teachers on a regular basis, or it's the coordinators who work on special projects or move through the observation process with our teachers. Everyone was at the table to go through this process staff member by staff member, so that we, number one, learn from each other. We, number two, made sure everything we were doing was evidence-based, that there was documentation that the teacher had been a part of producing through observations or reflection, and that we as a team, administratively, were as consistent as possible. Following staff review, going to May, June, and having had those conversations, we set ourselves up for annuals where we recap the year with each individual teacher, and then through those conversations, we set meaningful goals based on what we saw this year for professional growth moving forward. During the course of the year, we were heavily targeted by the state for not one but 2 audits on our evaluation process. They look at really 2 things. The first is, are we in compliance? A number of districts, many in this county, had a number of their pieces of the evaluation system, or the evaluation system as a whole, completely revamped 3/4 or halfway or 3/4 way through the year, which in my mind is taking a 90-degree turn going 100 miles an hour. It's not fair to the faculty, it's not fair to the administrators. It doesn't bode well for the students if we're focused on these things and we're completely changing things in March, April, and May, because they were out of compliance. The other piece they're looking for is how supportive a process and how well developed a process each district has come up with. And I just shared 3 quotations from the written feedback that we received from the monitors from each of the visits. And again, we have a lot of work to do. We recognize that. First and foremost, we have to keep coming together as a district and recognize that we're about growth, then we have to be locking arms and be in this together. But some of the things that they talked about was that, just in general, we really should be a model for other districts, the way we collaboratively came up with this idea of connected evaluation, and have really used it to try and support instructional growth and therefore the students. What was really interesting to me is that they were particularly impressed with consistency, transparency, and the reach of our communication structure. Those are probably the 3 biggest things we need to work on, things we get the most feedback on: our consistency, our transparency, and certainly our communication. We strive to do better every time. It was good news, though, to hear as they see other districts throughout the state, other districts are struggling with the same things, and we're doing a little bit better. We want to be even better next year, but it was nice to get that feedback. The last piece, pilot districts identify communication as a crucial component of successful implementation, and it's heartening to see a district take this lesson to heart and apply significant thought and resources to make it work well. Again, I'm standing up here presenting to the board and to the public that we have a ways to go. But it was great to get some feedback on when compared to how other people are wrestling with the same challenges. We're doing what's best in the best interest of our staff, and therefore in the best interest of our students. I give a lot of credit to both sets of associations, our teacher administration and everyone who's involved in that, and our administrative association. When I came in as a new superintendent, the last thing I wanted to touch at that time was observation and evaluation. I knew no one here, and my guests just coming in and talking about observation, especially before the state rolled out everything that was about to roll out, which we didn't know at the time. I didn't think I'd really have a chance to build the right relationships. I, though, was approached by the professionals in this district because they recognized they wanted to move forward. We applied for a pilot. We wrote a pilot grant in 2 weeks when other districts had 3 or 4 months. We didn't get the pilot. We didn't think we necessarily would. But the people who were involved in that felt that even if we didn't get it, just the work of going through that process was going to put us on a better footing as we tried to move forward doing what's right. And for 3 years, we've been engaged in this process. And I truly congratulate everyone who's been a part of this. Has it been stressful? Undoubtedly. But this idea, especially if you look at other places and how they are or are not building their structure, we've tried to build around that one concept that we're about growth and learning and then accountability in that order. And present that, make that presentation, that feedback to the board as our work as far as year 3, if you will, when it comes to our common language. I'll take any questions.
Certainly, Mr. Leslie, I want to thank you and the administrators and the teachers for the extraordinary amount of time and work that you've put into this. And I know it's starting to pay off already, and I'm sure we'll see more in the coming future. Thank you very much. Do you have a superintendent's report?
Oh, I do. You'll be very happy. It's one of the shorter ones. I apologize for the people who have not been here before. I'm going to try to go as quickly as I possibly can because I know we have a moment. I want to update the board members on our plans meeting with commissioners and other commissioners this year. We are doing everything possible to set up that joint meeting so we can share information with the commissioners on the state of the district and also hear back from the commissioners on the state of the township. A lot of the decisions that we're making directly impact or are directly impacted by the decisions they're making. And obviously, all my board members realize it's critical. The other piece of that, though, is regardless of whether or not we can get that together soon, we have to have a public meeting to talk about our specific issues and release the reports from our architect and our demographer. We want to make sure that happens in the next few weeks. It's critical because we have to also discuss publicly some of the space issues that we're going to be challenged with in this coming year, 2014-15 school year. Graduation ceremonies, and a lot of talk. As a reminder, our graduation calendar is always up on the website. If you go to any web page, the top drop-down navigation on top, you click on calendar. One of the files you can click on is the 2013-2014 graduation calendar. It specifies exactly when graduations are happening based on school closures. Knock on wood, those have been finalized. Those dates are set. With the help of our engineers, our architects, certainly Mr. Kaczynski, who traveled to a number of other districts just to take a look at certain things. We are waiting for final written confirmation, but we are told that our bleachers are sound structurally. Superficially, we know they need a lot of work, but we're doing what we can for a quick fix so that we can plan for and have our ceremonies for middle school and high school outside on the oval, assuming that weather holds out, does us a favor this year. And then moving forward, as soon as those 2 sessions are over, move for the restructuring that we've been talking about in committee so that come football season, soccer season, and the rest, those bleachers look as good as they always have. State and local assessment report, both the ASK, biology, comprehensive assessment, and the park pilots, and we had those extra park pilots, thank you for that approval, are all complete. We've learned a great deal and still taking feedback from students who sat, especially for the pilots. We're still getting questions from teachers about technology and how we are or not prepared. We are prepared for the park as far as the state is concerned, and based on our annual refresh, Mr. Leemeister and Mr. Levine, working with both the administration and the finance committees, hopefully we'll be even better suited when it comes to tech readiness for the park next year. Middle school advisory session. Mrs. Eaton is still here. I want to congratulate her and Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan's here. There he is. And then certainly all the middle school teachers We ran our first mock advisory. By mock, it wasn't mock at all. They actually met with students. Again, the idea of the advisory is within the middle school model to make sure that we're giving students a number of specific role models, mentors, and connections so that they're going to be successful, that we have multiple adults watching out for them, watching them, that they feel comfortable going to different people for different reasons. The advisory actually dealt with character. Mr. Capello and our counselors got together, talked about anti-bullying, and put together a role-playing activity. This is something that we'll be working into the structure of the middle school moving forward. So on a regular basis, students beyond their teachers, which we will be teamed, they'll be meeting with another mentor throughout the year so that we can teach them to build that support structure so they can practice it again in the high school, where we don't really do it for them, but it's still a controlled environment, so that leaving us in high school, they know how to build these support structures and be successful adults. National Honor Society, I want to congratulate all of the advisors and certainly the teachers and administrators of the high school. We inducted about 40 students into the National Honor Society. Feedback from the parents indicated that they were pleased with the new criteria, more rigor, and the overall process and program. So congratulations to everyone who's involved there. The District Art Show. Congratulations to Mr. Bienmeister, Mr. Riley, and everyone at the high school, from the custodians around the district, Mr. Nicolette, to all the art teachers at every level. It was a wonderful presentation of the work of our students at the high school. Grade 6 students in all buildings got to visit the display specifically and learn about opportunities in art as they move into middle school and then high school as well. Project Pride Assembly, juniors and seniors experience the annual Project Pride Assembly. Again, this is part of what we're trying to do both with character and community, getting the kids learning beyond the classroom and talk about how they're developing as human beings, not just academics. I want to thank our social studies department. Congressman Freeling-Heisen was here to visit both AP classes at the high school and middle school classes in the afternoon, talking to kids about current issues and taking their questions. And there were some interestingly and fun, candid moments with the congressman. But again, I think the kids truly appreciated again getting that learning out. Our law fair, approximately 80 elementary students attended the law fair sponsored by the NJ Bar Association. They had opportunities to participate as jurors and provide feedback, and again, we're growing the program as always and trying to push forward. Our Poetry Fest, another example of the different things our kids are doing. With grade 3 students at Yannicott participated in a poetry festival. I want to thank the teachers especially. They really did a fantastic job. Mrs. Crowell is here. It was a wonderful, it's always interesting to hear kids express themselves, and when it comes to poetry, there's never a dull moment. There's always surprises from them. So thank you everyone involved. Mrs. Paul is here. She helps assist with Future Educators of America, which is a high school group. They had a number of different activities, both working with teachers at the elementary level, and they're also participating as judges for our elementary program when it comes to our forensics competition. And they're leading a book club for our second graders across the district. So it's wonderful to have them going down on a regular basis and building those connections and giving those second graders kind of role models to build off. They're not always teachers or adults, but they can inspire to be these kids who come back later on. Mr. Carcella, Mr. Kaczynski, myself joined Ms. Yeamans and Commissioner Rogers for the ribbon cutting ceremony of the bicycle rack here at the middle school. Again, we want to thank Commissioner Rogers and his department. They received that wonderful grant to allow us to put the bike racks in every single school. Mr. Nicolette and his crew, thanks again, putting those things in and making sure we're trying to encourage healthy living whenever possible. Speaking of healthy living, Yannicott Walks, which a number of Ms. Janchik Martin, Mr. Kaczynski, Dr. Maloney, we're all there to kick off Yannicott Walks, and here we are, the program is almost over. So as a reminder, they are actually having, coinciding with Field Day on June 17th at Yannicott, they are having a brief ceremony to kind of bring the whole piece together and to hand out the coveted golden sneaker for the winning class. So I'll be anxious to see those numbers are being handled by Lloyd and Touche. No one knows exactly what the results are, and I can't wait to find out. I'm happy to report that for the first time since I've been here, the Junior Olympics, after rescheduled, went off wonderfully. We had fantastic weather, probably because I couldn't have either. But I just hear wonderful things from the parents who come out and line the street and sit in the stands, and all the students. And thanks again. It is truly a collaborative effort between Health and PE and other teachers at the elementary level and in the high school. So just thanks to everyone. It's a day that I know the kids don't forget. Election day, just a quick update again. We did have election day go off thanks to Dr. Belani, Mrs. Mara, and our principals with the extra staff and security. 6 to 7 buildings were used for the primaries. We had no incident. And just as a reminder, according to Commissioner Evans, We should, at this point, before the November elections, have approval from the county to move all the spring garden in the high school to non-public school polling locations. Thank you, Mr. Scalera and Mr. Patrick Martin. It's been a long process, but hopefully we get those final approvals. We're active school Special Olympics. I know Commissioner Scarpelli was here, but again, so many wonderful things. I got there just at the very end of the competition, but what a fantastic event. Having students come out with their families, we have volunteer coaches from the community as well as our teaching staff. Mrs. Mastardo, helping be there, Mr. Carney, and all the work that his staff does. It just really is a wonderful, heartfelt event. I mean, there's really no way to capture it other than being there. It's really something special and something that the district really needs to cherish and continue. The Nutley Youth Survey, just as a reminder to the board members, administered to the high school students during last week. We're waiting to complete the survey and finalize the results, sending them to Dr. Reed, who's helping us continue with this. And again, after the analysis, we use that as feeder, as information for any area, but specifically the character committee. Looking forward to getting that information back. Senior Scholastic Awards is tomorrow at the high school, 7 p.m. in the auditorium. 82 local organizations, including businesses, civic organizations, PTOs, awarding 119 scholarships to 114 seniors. So a year's worth of work. Congratulations to everyone. It's going to be a fantastic event. Also tomorrow, the rescheduled crash course in reality. So if you're trying to get back and forth down Franklin Avenue, tomorrow morning is not the time to do it. Mrs. Casilli and a number of our SACS guidance counselors set this up every few years, where we have an organization come in and actually mock the aftermath of a drunk driving accident. There are real people involved, actors and the rest. There are real responders. The high school students actually view it, and then we have classroom pieces where they discuss this afterward. Again, the idea is to truly demonstrate to people how quickly an accident can happen and how severe it can be. So hopefully we can prevent them and help them make better choices before something like that takes place. Forensic tournament. We are running, as I mentioned before, a district-wide forensic tournament. Students in grades 5 and 6 who have been chosen as finalists in the previous tournaments will be district-wide, followed by middle school with high school students judging. So we're looking forward to getting all those different students combined and see how we move forward. Kindergarten registration update numbers were in brief, but as predicted, we are over general capacity. Professional development continues for ESL as we move forward with that. Certainly with language arts, science, and our middle school model. Mrs. Egan and Mr. Sullivan meet at every possible chance they get. We're looking toward the end of the year in the summer to plan professional development for middle school teachers so that we are prepared to hit the ground running come September. That will also include hopefully bringing students in, separately for students for next year, both the summer and doing orientation, not just about the building in middle school, but about what the middle school model is actually going to be. We talked about the upcoming events. Check the website for graduation, kindergarten, elementary schools. Middle school commencement is Tuesday the 24th, 9 a.m. in the Oval, and our high school commencement, weather willing, Wednesday, June 25th, 6 p.m. in the Oval. Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mrs. James.
Thank you, Mr. President. Things are rolling along in the business office. We're currently working to provide support to our special services department with respect to the contract approvals for out-of-district students for the summer placements as well as the 14-15 school year, and also working on the extraordinary aid applications, which will provide funding to the district to support the tuition costs for out-of-district students. All of that needs to be wrapped up prior to the end of June. We are also getting ready to make sure that all of those students have their transportation needs scheduled and met, especially for the summer program. In addition to that, we are starting to wrap up all of the financials for the 13-14 school year, and at the same time, we are beginning purchasing and setting everything up for the 14-15 school year. So we will be working within both of those school year budgets for the next couple of months. And on tonight's agenda, there are several resolutions to renew contracts for things such as the health benefits, dental, student accident insurance, some of our instructional resources, our ASOP program, real time, and also to provide funding to do the update for our physical inventory and technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. At this time, we'll have committee reports. Mr. Spizzato.
I have no report. Mr. Kaczynski.
Ms. Nancy.
The academic committee met on June 3rd. We had a presentation from the character committee. They reviewed their work during the year, including the creation of the character curriculum, document, and discuss a plan for continued work during the next year. We had Ms. Richeria came in and did the world language pilot overview that we saw tonight. Mr. Lazovic went over his common language, common vision that we went over tonight. Dr. Bolani went over changes to the high school program of studies. We went over information about the Nutley Youth Survey. Let's see, we received curriculum and instruction updates for health and physical education, language arts, science, and professional development. We also spoke about superintendent's evaluation, board self-assessment, and merit goals. And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Scalero.
Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. The Administration Committee met June 2nd. So we had a common vision and common language presentation. Mr. Banya, Mrs. Carollo, and Ms. Egan presented on the work of the configuration team. The elementary level moved to the heterogeneous grouping for instruction, the new math model, and continued the implementation of the workshop model. The elementary team explored the use of lunch in other districts and have begun to explore consistent programs of studies and student code of conduct. The middle school spent this year communicating with the community about the middle school model and training staff in preparation of the move to the middle school model for this September. Mr. Bannon presented the work of the high school team in researching and designing an improved schedule they would like to move to that's the level of a 4x4 rotating drop. Mr. Francia, Ms. Martin, and Mrs. Rostel presented the work of the Competency Committee. The committee revised the framework for competencies. They then shared the information with teachers, formed a committee, and held an initial meeting to give feedback to allow for the framework to be finalized. Each level, elementary, middle, and high school, gave separate feedback to allow for clear communications. The group will target the Health and Public Education Department, which is moving into a year 5 of content review cycle, and they will be piloting the competency program. Mr. Lazovic provided an update on the overall work with Common Vision, similar to what he's presented the whole project on tonight. On technology, the committee reviewed the existing technology refresh that we go through. The board's goal is to make a similar investment as the previous year to allow for more technology, for more classroom use, and ensure the district's ability to minimize the time necessary to implement the park. And you saw some of that with the iPads here today and what's being advanced in the classrooms. I'm glad to say, and it's been a long time, that we reviewed the communications RFP, which is going to give us communication between the schools and the district during emergencies. That is on our agenda for tonight, and I'm very happy as that is part of our security plan and is happening. On negotiations, the committee reviewed the tentative agreement presented by the negotiations committee, and the agreement will be on the first agenda in June, which is tonight. Oval bleachers, the district's engineer is completing a study of structural integrity of the bleachers, assuming the structure is sound, which we now heard since we've read this, Ms. Watson, they are. The board is looking to bid for the first of 3 options, which will restore the bleachers to appropriate condition. The committee reviewed the necessary work also on Lincoln School and Radcliffe School for blacktop work over the summer. And the current work of the grounds crew discussing necessary staffing to maintain the current amount of property owned and used by the district. We also reviewed the teacher's contract, recommended through previous brief to add stipends for athletic and middle school. We reviewed the personnel and staff agenda that's on the that's been published and is on our agenda tonight. The policies also, which are also on agenda this evening. That's it, Mr. Kaczynski.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Mr. Klein.
Yes, the Parent Advocacy Group on June 4th held an event in Nutley Special Services, Helen Doyle Marino, as well as with the Belleville Special Services, where we had a viewing of the film, Big Picture, Rethinking Dyslexia, to open it up to parents as well as staff. That's 20 people showed up, then we went over some of the dyslexia bill, things that are in place for next year, and what the districts are doing about it.
Thank you. Any other? We now come to the portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments on only the resolutions addressed in tonight's agenda. Our board regulation number 601 allows 20 minutes for these communications. Each person should be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once only after all others wishing to speak on the topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to me as the chairperson. No one may address board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to always state your name and address each and every time you address the board. The first person can step forward.
Hi, good evening. Marie Dieterle, 30 Chase Street. I'm here regarding the resolution on personnel agenda, and specifically the transfer of Mr. Ferriel out of Lincoln School. I was sitting here, I'm not sure what I was going to say, but I listened to all your words tonight, and I've heard the words role model. Mr. Ferriel is a role model for those children at Lincoln. Not only for the children, he's a role model for the parents as well. I've heard the words set them up for success. Mr. Ferriel sets them up for success every day in his classroom, every night when he's home planning, every lunch hour when he's home planning, every lunch hour where he's helping children with their homework. He's setting them up for success. This is my last chance to say to all of you, before you vote on that resolution, please think about it. Think about what the children and the parents and the other staff members at Lincoln are going to lose if you transfer Mr. Ferriel out. I beg you to vote no on the transfer of Mr. Ferriel out of Lincoln School.
Good evening. My name is Lena Fleisch, I live at 25 Essex Street. I want to say, as well as Marie Desbrio, that my son is currently a student of Mr. Ferriel's, and we moved to Nutley specifically for the great school system. We want the best for our children. And you said earlier, Mr. Lazovic, that you want Nutley to be a model for other school districts. I believe that with Mr. Ferriel at Lincoln, that's possible. When my son started Nutley Public School, he came from having a private school background all his life. We were told that he was a high honor student, but in the Nutley system, he was struggling. And my son has ADHD. We don't like to tell it to everybody. But Mr. Ferriel, the first week, without any records from his prior school district, Mr. Ferriel pinpointed, pulled me aside and said to me, Mrs. Ryan Fleisch, I think your son has ADHD. And he also was able to do certain cues in classrooms to help him. And today, he's in the township program for writing. He loves all the subjects that he hates to study, math, science. We can't get him out of the school building some days because he loves his classroom so much. He has a passion for so many things, like World War II, JF, things that we've never heard him speak of with such excitement and joy. Many of the teachers at Lincoln are wonderful. But our students are having a problem. My son is having a hard time enjoying the end of the year because he's worried about not having Mr. Ferriel to see him in the hallway next year, because this is his first year in Lincoln, in any public school. And that's part of his foundation now. And I feel personally, if you take him away, you're going to mess with Mikey's foundation. And I would hold that against you personally. I'm not happy about that. He's a person that I want my other kids to have as they grow up in Lincoln School. I teach my kids to do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Treat others the same way. You know, in the Christian faith, we tell them you will reap what you sow. What you put out there, you get it back. You know, not karma so much, but I just want to remind you as parents, when you're making a decision, the important decision, the life change, which involves stress, regarding Mr. Ferriel's career, take that into consideration, please. Look into your heart. I mean, not to make a joke out of the matter, but the same way Moses asked Pharaoh, let people go. I'm asking you to please, don't take Mr. Ferriel. From the bottom of my heart, genuinely. You know, with so much love we have for this man who was only one of 3 male teachers, who was a father figure that my husband, like many other fathers, works more than 40 hours to afford to live in this wonderful town. Our children don't see their fathers very much because of that. They come home exhausted. Mr. Ferriero is a key father figure for many of these students. He has so much wisdom and guidance and compassion. Many male teachers don't have such a good manner. You know, they're maybe too authoritative. He's very compassionate, kind, very caring, and he's just wonderful. And it's just like a breath of fresh air many times. So please, thank you for your time.
John O'Reilly, 76 Gray Street, Nutley, of course. I'm also speaking on the matter regarding Mr. Ferriero. The reason why I come here today is I kind of want to, as a former student of Mr. Ferriero, explain what kind of impact Mr. Ferriero has on the Lincoln School Nutley community. So again, my name is John O'Reilly. I'm a lifelong Nutley resident. And I kind of want to give you a little background. I went to Lincoln School between 95 and 2002. And at an early age, I was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This condition made it difficult for me to concentrate in my classes. Normal behaviors such as sitting still and not speaking at a turn were a constant challenge in my academic career very early on and even toward the end of my high school years. As the years of elementary school progressed, my grades worsened, my confidence diminished, I became frustrated with myself, and I used to beg my parents to keep me home from school every single day. But things began to change when I entered 5th grade. It was a new school year, I had new teachers, and there was just a new beginning. It was at this time when I found out that I had been placed in Mr. Ferrio's 5th grade social studies classroom. I had heard only good things about this teacher, so I was excited to see what he had in store for me and the class of 2002. From day one, I knew I was going to enjoy his class. He brought excitement, joy in each one of his lessons. He took a subject that I previously deemed boring and useless and made it come alive. But more specifically, he made history real. Social studies became something of a passion of mine. I began to watch the History Channel. And for a 5th grader watching the History Channel, that's nearly next to impossible. I found myself more engaged in the classroom. Previously, I wasn't confident in myself or my answers. When Mr. Ferrio's class, I started to raise my hand more, take more classroom leadership roles, and more so, I even helped my fellow students with their homework. Because I was so passionate, I wanted to learn more. And I took the time, and I got the extra help I needed in order to do that. Every day after school, my friends and I would talk about what we learned in Mr. Ferrio's class. This is no joke. Having 5th graders talk about what they learned in a 5th grade history class, again, is next to impossible, but Mr. Ferriero was not. Never could I have imagined that one teacher could have an impact on a student. But more importantly, he restored my confidence. And by the end of the first marking period, I did something I'd never done before, and I achieved honor roll. This was something I never thought I could do, but while those things were happening, I still struggled. And Mr. Ferriero always made the time to assist me whenever I needed. Each time I doubted my own abilities, whether it be in the classroom or outside the classroom, he made time for me. It was because of Mr. Ferriero that I today decided to pursue a career in education. Today, I'm a proud graduate of Montclair State University, and I majored in social studies and psychology education, and I achieved Dean's List every semester. As I look back now as an educator, I realize how great he was at his craft, and still is. He uses a variety of methods in the classroom that I hope to emulate. His passion for teaching motivates me as an educator, but most of all, I hope I could be as compassionate, as caring as this great man is. The late Henry Adams once said, "A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell where his influence stops." Mr. Ferrio's influence has transcended my class and has impacted several other Lincoln School students. As a local martial arts instructor for over 7 years, I've had students who've had Mr. Ferriero telling me how wonderful he is and how excited they are in his class. His impact still to this day touches people's lives and challenges them to strive for the greatest things. His home is at Lincoln School. He spent most of his teaching career in the school and established a strong rapport with the Lincoln community and students. Privately and publicly, I want to thank you for what you've done for me and for so many others. And I want to end by saying it is said that a good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself in light. It consumes itself to light the way for others. Thank you for lighting our way, Mr. Ferriero.
topic of Mr. Farrell.
Just need your name first.
Oh, Andrew Roberts, and I like it 11 Akron Street. Okay. So, my name is Andrew Roberts, as I said, and currently I'm a senior at NHS bound for the University of Virginia next year. Perhaps more relevant to this subject, however, is the fact that I graduated from Lincoln School in 2008. While Nutley demonstrates excellence across a wide range of subjects, perhaps our township's most infamous trait is its ability to spread news across town almost instantaneously. For once, this feat came in handy when I heard about Mr. Farrell getting reassigned to Radcliffe sometime last week from a classmate. To give some background information, I've known Mr. Farrell for now what has been longer than 6 years. Last year, I tutored a student of his in general studies, really just helping him out in whatever he needed. Also, back in the glory days, I was part of Mr. Farrell's high-level math class as a 6th grader. Mr. Farrell is one of the few teachers that I've stayed in contact with over the years, so I decided to give him a call regarding this situation. It was about 8 p.m. when I called, and quickly, the man that answered the phone transformed into a person that I was unfamiliar with. What started with a cheerful "Hi, Andrew" quickly faded into a quiet sadness as he realized the reason for my phone call. He regretfully informed me that he would potentially be leaving his home at Lincoln if the movement for his transfer passed. He explained that he would be turning 60 later this year, and he had spent his entire career teaching at Lincoln School. With only a few more years to teach, he's bewildered as he's not given definite answers as for why he must leave his home. Now, I understand that I'm a student. I'm not part of the administration, and therefore cannot comment on the inner workings of the district. However, I can comment from the viewpoint of a saddened Lincoln alumni. After all Mr. Farrell has contributed to my former elementary school, I do not find it just for him to be forced to leave. As a math teacher, Mr. Farrell has set me up to succeed. I'm part of a 10-student BC Calculus class. Now, as a quick explanation for those that don't understand our district's math program, BC Calculus is at the top of the hierarchy, and it's tiered. And to get into the program, to be able to eventually take BC Calculus, you would need to originally pass a test to get into Algebra 1 as a 7th grader. So this test, it's given to all 6th graders, and Mr. Farrell prepared me, along with many of my Lincoln School classmates, and many of us passed the test, and now we're in this top level course. And I know Mr. Lasvik, you're a fan of numbers, and so am I. I'm planning to be a math major. 5 out of 10 students in this BC Calculus class come from Lincoln School, right from Mr. Farrell's class. So for 50% coming from 5 elementary schools, he's doing something right. So to continue, as a person, I find Mr. Farrell commendably remarkable to work with. After I started tutoring his student, he would meet with me after school fairly regularly to track the progress of how he was doing. Create a personalized agenda for me to go over with him. Everything above and beyond that you could potentially ask of a teacher, Mr. Farrell was doing quietly without being asked or noticed. Progress I made with this student was remarkable that year, which had a very large part to do with Mr. Farrell's tireless commitment as an excellent teacher. When I asked why Mr. Farrell was so disappointed at being reassigned, apart from the fact that he was leaving his home, I received a heartwarming answer. Besides the fact that he views Lincoln as his home, he mentioned that he was trying to make the largest impact possible that he can with his few years left as a teacher. He noted that Lincoln School statistically has the lowest test scores in the district, while Radcliffe has some of the highest. With the drive and excellence as a teacher that Mr. Farrell has shown to me over the years, I'm personally strongly in favor of Mr. Farrell staying where he belongs at Lincoln School to finish out his wonderful career as a teacher. Thank you.
My name is Cindy Roberts. I'm also from 11 Ackerman Street, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Mr. Farrell. School is something that I take very seriously, and the subject which has continuously proven to be most intellectually engaging and demanding throughout the years is mathematics. The math I'm currently taking is Accelerated Algebra 2. This is an accelerated version of the standard 11th grade math. Mr. Ferriel is the reason I'm in this math class. I had Mr. Ferriel as my 6th grade math teacher at Lincoln School. He pushed my class to our highest potential in order to prepare us for the algebra placement exams. I remember sitting in his classroom awestruck when I heard x being used in math for the first time. We all struggled with the concept of tinkering with more than one side of an equation, and balancing an equation fell way over our heads. However, Mr. Ferriel encouraged us and told us we could do it, and with his relentless help we did. He did everything he had to in order to see us succeed, whether it was explaining one problem for 20 minutes, or ordering a set of hands-on algebra props. And eventually, he became more than just our math teacher. He became a stable, reliable, and calm rock that we knew we could always depend on. And Mr. Ferriel has more school spirit than anyone I've ever met. I feel like if he had 7 Lincoln School shirts, he would wear one every day. I remember him being like the head of our Lincoln School family. He was like that great uncle that always sits at the head of the table and has the best stories and gives the best advice. Transplant him to another table, and it just wouldn't be the same. For our family, their family, or him. Teachers aren't disposable or replaceable, and as a teacher grows closer to retirement, they should not begin to be seen as such. In fact, what should happen is quite the opposite. They should be treated with gratitude and respect, and anything less is just unacceptable. Mr. Ferriel has poured his heart and soul into Lincoln School. To move him would send the message that it does not matter how much time, effort, or passion he or any other teacher puts into their students or school, because they'll be gone in a few years anyway. But Mr. Ferriel is the kind of teacher that the administration should be begging to stay a few years longer. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to be heard on resolution items? At this time, I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Ken Ferrier, and I live at 92 New Street, Nutley. It is with much reluctance that I come in front of the board tonight. Anyone who knows me well can vouch for the fact that I'm a quiet, unassuming person, and that I don't feel comfortable being the center of attention. I've always been a person that believed that your actions speak louder than your words. That if you work hard and always try to do the right thing, good things result. Well, my experience over the past 36 days has awakened me to the fact that sometimes you do need to use your words, and that your actions are not always enough, and that's why I'm here tonight. During the last board meeting, you were handed a packet of information that told about me. Up until recently, most of you didn't know anything about me. I was hoping that the information I provided would help you to realize that I'm not an 8:30 to 3:30 teacher, but a teacher who for 18 years has been an integral part of Lincoln School, someone who has made a personal commitment to the students, someone who has contributed to the school in a significant way. More important than any information that you receive from me are the words that have been spoken by the parents, my students, and others in the community. I was told recently that the administrators in our school system know more about the children's education than the parents do, and that their opinions are taken more seriously by the Board of Ed members. I don't doubt that our administrators are intelligent, knowledgeable people, but I argue that they are no more knowledgeable about what is best for the children than the children's parents are. You've heard from many of them over the past few weeks, as well as from their children. The point I'm trying to make is that the parents in the school district, to me, are extremely important stakeholders, and their words need not only to be heard, but listened to carefully. They know better than anyone what's best for the children. And when they tell you that a teacher has made a positive impact on their children, and when you hear the same thing coming from the students, you need to take those words seriously. I've worked hard all my life to do the right thing. Like I said earlier, I always believe that doing what's right is most important, even if it brings a bit of discomfort now and then. I'm now asking each of you to do what's right, to listen to the parents' voices and to the voices of their children, and to reconsider the decision to transfer me from Lincoln School to Radcliffe School. The parents and children deserve to be heeded, and their concerns need to be respected. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else wish to be heard on resolution items? And I apologize to you because now we are going to go into closed session for a short amount of time as we can, but we need to discuss some personnel issues. I will go through the process, we'll go into closed session, and then we will be back. Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss personnel matters. Be it further resolved that the results of this discussion will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of a Board of Education, or when the reason for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exists. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence. We'll begin now with our resolutions. I'm sorry, we need to take roll call again, Ms. Profuso.
Mr. Carmosella?
Here.
Mrs. Stanchek Martin? Here. Mr. Ferrara? Here. Mr. Klein?
Here.
Ms. Russo? Here. Mr. Scalera?
Here.
Mr. Sposato?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Here. Resolutions. Mrs. Zanchek, will you take academic resolution, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move academic resolutions 1 through 11 as written.
I need a second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carmosella?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanchek Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. Mr. Scalera, you take administration resolution, please?
Yes, Mr. Kinski, I move administration resolutions 1 through 5 as written.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carmosella?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanchek Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. Mr. Sposato, will you take finance resolution, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I move finance resolutions 1 through 22, with just one comment. Regarding number 5, I just wanted to thank the administrators. We have the resolution on for the great work that we did together and for a great contract that we worked out. Just want to thank all the administrators.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much. Roll call,
We need a
Mr.
second. We need a
I'm sorry,
second.
we need a second.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Kuzo.
Mr. Carmosella?
Hold on, time out. I got waylaid by Mr. Sposato's comments. We've taken the second, we have a second discussion.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Number 15, the bids for the handhelds.
You're right.
I'm in agreement with the community service integrator. We have an addendum for that I sent an email now. I did not receive a response. There was an extra $4,000 to, was removed from specs. We added it back in as an addition to be able, so that we'd be able to pull in from the phone to the radios. So if we're off-site, there was an emergency, the police could also get to the network. I didn't get a response to the email. It's not on the agenda. I want to confirm that that will be on the next agenda, that $4,000 change order.
You have to change the agenda.
Yes.
We had to put it in second.
Okay, so it'll be on the next agenda. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Roll call, Mr. Kuzo.
Mr. Carmosella?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanchek Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms.
Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Mr. Sposato?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. Mr. Klein, we take personnel resolutions, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move personnel resolutions 1 through 3 with the amendment on resolution 1 as written.
Second? I'll second it for discussion. Yes, sir.
Definitely discuss. With respect to everybody that spoke tonight, you as well, sir, it takes a lot of courage to come up to the board and speak. And have a lot of respect for everybody who's done that. I've been there on the other side. Staffing issues in regards to the Board of Ed. And I think many in this town can remember a time when the Board of Ed did generate a lot of the staffing decisions, and it resulted in a district that didn't strive. We pay our administration, Mr. Lasbeck, and his crew a lot of money to make their decisions. They've gone through, and we've looked at the process based on the words that have been brought to here at our last meeting. We looked at the process, and we have determined that it is, well, not we, I can't speak for the whole board, but it is an objective process that is comprised of committee members that will push the district forward as a whole. And as painful as that can be sometimes with certain individuals, we do feel strongly that people that we pay to run this district should be making staffing decisions and not board members. We have a lot of administrators in the room that we hold in those situations that should make those decisions. And there was a time in Nutley when the Board of Education members made staffing decisions. And there were some problems. We want to move away from that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't speak for the board, but coming from experiences where I could see a district strategic plan be thwarted significantly by individual members, that's my personal opinion.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I would like to make a statement. And I've answered numerous emails, as I think many of the board members have, concerning the situation. And my answer has been, I thank you obviously for your concern, for the dedication of all of our teachers. Even though we've all had questions about different transfers that go on within the district, I still feel the discussion to move a teacher is done by the administrators in this district based on the enrollment and the needs in each school. The process is time-consuming, dealt with on a professional basis by our educators, and their project is to keep all the children in Nutley at heart, in mind, and to make those decisions. We've spent quite a bit of time talking about different moves that are going on. In my opinion, as Mr. Klein had stated, I was here before when the Board of Ed made some decisions that they should not have been involved in, personnel decisions. That's why we hired the superintendent. That's why we have professional educators in the district. I still feel that if it were a fire department decision, I would be very involved in making that decision. It's an educational decision. I'm not an educator. I leave that to the people that we hired as educators, and I think I'd have to go along with their decision. And not that I need to remind any of our board members, but these are our bylaws, and the bylaws clearly state that board members will confine his or her board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal, and help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them, which I'm sure we have all done as board members and in good conscience. Moving that, take the roll call, Mr. Cucuzzo.
Mr. Carnicella?
Yes.
Mrs. Stancheck Martin? Yes. Mr. Ferraro?
Abstaining yes to number 1, yes to 2 and 3.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Abstain on number 1, yes to 2 and 3.
Mr. Scalera?
I wanted to save my comment just before this. Last week I was away all week and spoke to Mr. Kaczynski multiple times. And at that time, I wasn't sure I was voting, but I was leaning in the no vote. I have to say that Mr. Kaczynski and Superintendent Lazovic set up a meeting for me, and as well as attended Mr. Ferrara, Mr. Carnicella, 7:30 Saturday morning. We met for
Sunday morning.
Saturday morning.
I'm sorry, Saturday morning. Sunday was another meeting. Saturday morning. Sorry, Fred.
I got back late Saturday night. I knew I got up early Friday night, Saturday morning. Some of the things we asked for, we reviewed every single transfer that happened in the past 3 years since the superintendent's been here. Because I think you've heard, as was mentioned, the board used to make those decisions, not the administration. And that truly, Mr. Kaczynski is right about the policies he's read. I learned a lot that day. We've transferred people with many more years in the district, and we've transferred many people with many fewer years. I've heard how well, and I've read what you've submitted to us, and I've talked to parents in the room, and I also heard those same things from some of the other senior people that we transferred in the past years, who have now made where they've gone just successful or better for those kids. Doesn't mean we're not educating kids in Nutley, we're not taking care of kids in Nutley, it's still Nutley. We have to look at the betterment of everything for all the district. We might not like that, but we have to look at every single school. I looked at 3 years, I think over 23 people were 23 transfers were reviewed on Saturday morning. Talked about this extensively, and it's a very difficult decision for me because I know a lot of people here and things are personal. Mr. Kaczynski related, we were both chiefs of the fire department. Made many different decisions to move senior to lower, what was ever, to make it better for the 4 shifts to fight fire better. If I was to bring in Chief Holland, who was the head of the police department for many years, he did transfers for the betterment of all the shifts in the department that respond to nothing. So listening to the administrators, reviewing all this, I have to state that I have to agree the transfer must go through tonight, and I'll vote yes.
Mr. Spasada?
Abstain. Oh, I'm sorry, just on 1 and yes on 2 and 3.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes. We now come to the portion, I'm sorry, Mr. Klein, you have another agenda item on the resolutions?
I thought you
Right, number 1. Thank you. Yes, I'd like to.
Brooke Benavides is with us. Congratulations. She went through the lengthy process of application for our K-12 position of English Language Arts Coordinator, and the board and myself would like to extend our congratulations and wish you all the best as you join up.
We now come to the portion of our meeting where we allow comments on all school-related matters. Our regulations allow 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person should be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. As I stated earlier, all statements will be directed to me. I'll take the first person who would like to speak about any item tonight.
Diane Bolton, representative of Nutley CPAC, 53 Lakeside Drive. Why is the transfer of this teacher from Lincoln to Radcliffe occurring?
For educational reasons.
For educational, can you expand on that?
Certainly. The numbers in the Lincoln School District do not warrant needing another teacher in that district, where the need does arise in Radcliffe schools, and we're making that move based on that and the requirements of the Radcliffe School District.
Has there been any consideration for moving a different teacher? Has that been in the discussions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any old business to come before the board? Any new business to come before the board? I have some new business. Actually, it's a little bit of both old and new. First of all, we thank Commissioner Rogers for the bike racks. Along with the bike racks, I had a suggestion from one of our board members, Mrs. Russo, that perhaps we could look into some type of a bike training program for some of the students in the lower grades. Not so much to encourage them to bring the bikes to school, but certainly if they do, or they're coming for an activity after school, they would be well trained on what's required when they're riding their bike. And I don't want to take away from Ms. Russo. Is that what you had in mind?
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
That's happening either this week or next week. The bike rodeo, the public safety.
I saw that. I saw that.
Advertised for all those grades just for that purpose.
I saw that on email, and I didn't know if that was covering everything, but it does fine. I wanted to thank Commissioner Tucci for the tree the department installed along Radcliffe School along Northfield Avenue. The project was quite an undertaking. I certainly wanted to thank him and Commissioner Scarpelli for the work they did to enhance the appearance and the safety in front of Radcliffe School. I've spoken to Mr. Klein, and I've spoken to a couple of the commissioners, and they had asked for a representative from the Board of Education to relay. The commissioners would like to make sure that the information they're passing down as far as some meetings, some agendas, some outside activity they might have going on. So I've appointed myself and Mr. Klein as the liaison to the Board of Commissioners to make sure that that communications does get passed down to all the board members when they have some activity going on. Is there any other new business?
Mr. Kaczynski, can I just cover, just Radcliffe School, also have to include our county executive, Joe DiVincenzo, of Public Works. They donated all the material, all the ballots and everything were installed out there. It was covered by the cost of the county. This was truly a shared partnership between the town, the county, the school board. It was what the government should be doing, so thank you.
Good idea, thank you. Whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10-4-12. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education recess to closed executive session at this time to discuss student matters. Be it further resolved that the result of this discussion will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of the Board of Education, or when the reasons for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exist.
Second.
I so move it. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.